All right, so we're going to get started here in a couple seconds. I appreciate you all jumping on and coming online. Today is a day we're just going to do a talk. And one of the things about 2025, everybody has their own personal projects that they're working on. And so one of the ones that I know a lot of people, because it happens, where every year is their money and their health. So I'm going to hopefully help to work on the health part of things. And one of the areas where I know um, can be most effective at helping people with their health is really healing their metabolism. So I've done a number of studies on this, and that's one of the things that I feel like if a person can get their metabolism right and get your body breaking down food and processing, as well as converting that energy at the optimum level, then that's going to have the greatest impact on our weight, our health, overall energy, and everything. So I wanted to touch on this at the beginning of the year because I think it's a kingpin of how you can thrive in your health. So I'm going to change this from, I like playing around with these different screens, as you see, that Zoom provides, as well as some of the other, um, some of the other themes and everything like that. So I'm going to make a little change here. So we're going to go from me sitting here uh, in a small conference setting to back to the old days, where we're going to take it back to TV. So now, what I'm going to do here is we're going to switch here to the TV broadcast, and then for those of you who don't know me, if you see this, I'm going to let you know who I am, give you a little bit of background information, and then get on with how to reset your metabolism and experience kingdom health, weight loss, and all of those things that are essential in good health right here. So, hey, here we go. We are live on TV, old school TV. And the beautiful thing about old school TV is if for some reason you're not liking this information, you'd actually would have to get up to change the channel. So maybe you'll stay here and listen. But anyway, so my name is Mike James, as you can see up here. Um, first of all, man of God, family man, love what I do, called by God in the area of health and healing. And so years ago, about 30 years ago, it was put on my heart to start what's called Bodies in Christ, where I used to do live classes and used to write for the Full Gospel Times and served in the healing ministry at my local church here. But one of the things that God pressed upon my heart was to really help the body of Christ as it relates to health and healing, because personally, I had some things in my family that, when they say things run in the family, it's hereditary. So, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, some other things. I had several family members to have those things when I was growing up, and a number of them passed as a result of some of those things. But one of the things that I saw when I was growing up is I did have a desire to be healthy. So um, I don't know, I never did eat a lot of sweets because back in the day, diabetes was something that, you didn't want to get. There was always some older person that maybe had a limb amputated or something like that because they had the sugar. Of course, that's what it was called back in the day. They had the sugar. So didn't want to get the sugar. So you try to limit how much, even though, you still wanted candy and soda and all those things. But as I got into my teens and early adulthood, I kind of cut back on some of that. And then not too long after that, I kind of stopped eating pork because of the association with high blood pressure. And that was before giving my life to Christ or any of that, but just wanting to do what I could in a small way to possibly prevent health issues down the road. And so not too long after that, my father passed of a heart attack when I was 22, right before my 22nd birthday. Well, I was 22 when he passed, right before my 23rd birthday. And shortly after then, I started dealing with, I started having chest pains. And I'm like, what in the world? Played college football, did all those things. And I was like, how in the world am I having chest pains? I'm in good shape and everything else. And so I went to the doctor, went to a cardiologist, and told him what was going on. He asked me a couple simple questions like, do you drink milk and how much dairy? And I said, do I drink milk? That's all I drink is milk. I drank more milk than water. Coming in from playing basketball, I was drinking milk, not water. So he told me not to drink any milk for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks and then come back and see him. I did that and didn't have that issue ever again. Found out I was lactose intolerant, which was good news because I didn't have something going on with my heart. But it did have me thinking about, again, what I was eating and, the whole study on red meat and how it stays in your body and that kind of thing. So at that point, shortly after then, I stopped eating red meat, um, and I was a big steak lover, just all kind of steaks. But I said, hey, if it's better for my health, if it's going to keep me healthy, I'll stop eating. Long story short, about 10 years later, I gave my life to Christ. And during that first couple months of experiencing the, transformation, the Lord put it on my heart to fast for 3 days and then to look up all of the healing scriptures in the Bible. And I did that. And so after doing that and really, you know, really just listening, I felt like that was a part of my ministry was health and healing. And so I went on and did the class that I mentioned. I did that for years and writing for Full Gospel Times, and then had a little break in between, and about a 25-year break in between that time to when I started back doing classes about a year ago, because the Lord put it on my heart to do classes during the pandemic. But I didn't move on it, just from going from in person to virtual. And so then it came back up again in 2023, and I was like, okay, God. So I redid the class, also got certified in health and nutrition coaching to get some science behind what the Lord has showed me in his word. And so here we are today where we are with a curriculum, with doing health coaching and working with people one-on-one, working in groups. But today I'm just here to talk with you about resetting your metabolism in 2025 so that your health can thrive. And I'm going to get into how to do that. Some of you have the guide that you have downloaded, which is a starting point. Some of the key factors in that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that guide to kind of go through what I'm going to talk about today in reference to resetting your metabolism, having a vision for your health, understanding God's eating plan, all of those things I'm going to get into so that you can take this information and make some changes, right? To walk down that road and experience the health that God has for you. And I truly believe that it's God's plan for all of us to walk in divine health. We just have to have that mindset and be in agreement with Him and experience health at the highest level. I'm thankful that the Lord has blessed me. I was talking with a young lady the other day, and she was talking about how, things are hereditary because she's dealing with some things with diabetes and elevated blood sugar. And to a certain extent, that may be true, but for the most part, y'all, for the most part, we have a choice in what we experience health-wise. What we do similar to our parents is eat. Our eating habits are going to closely resemble that of the environment that we grew up in. So that doesn't have to always be the case, because you can decide to do something different. And I'm going to talk about that today, and just how to reset your metabolism, really by what you're eating and by what you're thinking, to where it's not laborious, where it's not something that you feel like you're restricting yourself or depriving yourself of certain foods or things that you like to do. No, that's not the way. But the mindset, when the mind changes, then how you look at all of this changes, and you can walk this thing out. I've been blessed to, be on this earth for quite a while now, 60 plus years. And I've never been on any medication. I've never really, I don't know if I've taken headache medication, because I don't get headaches. I have, cold medication, none of that stuff in my adult life. I'm not saying that to impress you, but to impress upon you that living a life free of as much medication as possible, that's one I feel like I'm called to kind of sound that alarm. Again, hey, I'm not making any medical claims or advising anyone to stop taking medication. But what I am advising you to do is to be proactive when it comes to your health and healing, because you can walk in divine health and eventually free yourself of some of the things that you may be taking that's 100% related to how you eat and how your metabolism works. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to pull up some information here just on from the guide that most of you have. And then if you don't have it, you can download this free guide. It's at www.the5keys.live or .live, www.5keys.live, Live, right? So now these are the 5 keys, but really today what I'm going to do is give you 7 keys to weight loss, mindset transformation, and to reset your metabolism. So first things first, there's a proverb, right? And in Proverbs, there's a scripture there, Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18 through 19. It really gets into this. And what this means, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. So I'm going to expound on that a little bit, because you have to have a vision for your health. You have to have a vision, because if you don't have a vision, you will follow the vision that's put there before you, right? And that is to eat whatever it is the food production companies come up with. And when they're coming up with these foods, they're not designing these foods to really nourish your body. They're designing these foods so that you would want more of these foods. It's profit driven. And so the more of it that you eat and the more of it that you buy, the better off they are. So that's the vision they have for you, is to eat more of the food stuff. So the processed foods, I'm going to talk about those some. They're filled with sugar and salt and those things that's going to appeal to your taste buds and actually make you hungry after you eat them. So you can eat something in 2 hours and then you're hungry again and you want more. And some people wonder why, man, I eat one Oreo, I end up eating the whole pack. It's because the way those things are designed. They're not designed for you to eat just one. You remember the old Lay's potato chip commercial? It was a challenge. You can't just eat one. And that's true. You can't just eat one. So you'll sit down with a big bag of Lay's and they'll show you the images that you can't just eat one. You're not satisfied until you eat the whole bag. Well, folks, that's not what's best for you. That's not your vision. That's their vision telling you this is what you ought to do. Now, you see me showing up on the screen here inside of an old school television, right? Because that's how, over the past 50 years, we have been programmed by the television. Think about the root word of television. I am telling you, or I'm giving you a vision. So we sit, we watch that thing, we see the commercials for the Big Macs, for the, for the sodas, for the Coke and for the Pepsi, and all of the things and the images around it, because they understand the connection with food and how you feel. So, they get these stars and celebrities to endorse the products, and you see them with the product, and they're always having a good time, right? Michael Jackson, the Pepsi generation. Some of you all that's old enough to remember that in the commercial. Everybody was so hyped when he came up with that Pepsi commercial, right? Because they wanted to combat Coke, because Coke is it. Everything's better with Coke, right? And so all of those things and the programming that we watch on television created a vision. A lot of us followed that vision and still follow that vision. Now it's not just television, it's streaming, right? It's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Twitter, it's X, it's, all of those different things, but the premise is the same. You're going to get a message that's going to give you a vision of who you are. Now, my situation and what I'm talking right now is who you are health-wise. So you have to decide, like, okay, who am I as it relates to health? And what is the vision that you have for your health? Because I'm going to walk in agreement with you if you align with the vision that God has for your health. I'm here to be in agreement with you. And the word says where two on earth are in agreement asking anything, that he'll do it, right? So, number one, you have to have a vision. You have to have a clear vision, because where there is no vision, the people perish. Perishing, you'll cast off restraints. You won't have any boundaries if there's no clear vision. And that can be for any area of your life. If there's no clear vision in any area of your life, you'll cast off restraint. So now we're talking about health, healing, food, resetting your metabolism. You have to have a vision for that. So now what I want you to do is meditate and pray about your health and God's plan for your health. And then come up with a vision of what your best health looks like. See, I want you to really think of what is your best health. And I'm praying for everyone that will see this and hear this, that you will execute and put into place and just do these things that I'm sharing with you, because I do believe, nothing is by happenstance. I believe that as it relates to health and healing, that the things that I'm sharing with you are God inspired, because this is a biblically based, I call it program or whatever you want to call it, but it's based on God's word and the vision that I believe he has for you as it relates to health, because we have gone down that road of the vision that the world has for us as it relates to health. And what has that gotten us? Lifetime medications, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, lifetime medications. That's the road, that the vision that the world has for your health. That's the road and where it takes you. So What does your best health look like? What's the number for your best weight? No matter where you are in your life, no matter what your age is or anything, it doesn't matter. I've been in pretty decent health most of my life, playing, college football. And then after that, once you're an athlete, you still in your mind feel like you're an athlete. So, there'll be times when, yeah, my weight may go up for a little while, but then too, the vision of myself and health, is not someone that's, you know, overweight or not being able to move around and do the things that I want to do, or so after a while I'll see that and I'll be like, okay, no, that's not vision, that's not who I am. So okay, yeah, so I make that, okay, yeah, there's something I need to do to make a change. So what's the best weight? And this is the thing that's so awesome about God, is that, as I mentioned, I played college football. I've been in great shape. I've been cut up, and all of that when in my younger years. And I'm not real crazy about being cut up right now. Um, at times I think about, okay, just from a demonstration standpoint, it might be good to cut up to show people, hey, you still can do this. Doesn't matter what age you are. I'm 60 plus. So if I'm cut up at 60 plus, what can you do at 40, 30, 50? You know what I mean? So, but that's not even my aim, is to be cut up. But this is the thing that I can say, that right now in my over 60 state, I am healthier now than at any time in my life. Right? So it's never too late. When I say healthier, I'm talking about from an internal standpoint, my numbers, um, blood pressure, cholesterol, even though I've never been on any medication, never been in a situation where I had to be, but my numbers are better at my plus 60 age than they have ever been. Right? And that's just simply because of what I'm sharing with you here in reference to vision, in reference to um, metabolism health and understanding that part of it, and doing some things intentionally and strategically to align with just better health. So, what is the number for your ideal body mass index? Sometimes we see the numbers on the chart that tells you whether you're obese or not, and then what your body mass index will be if you're in that category of healthy or being obese. And some of those numbers, you're like, okay, look, I have big bones. This thing doesn't relate to me. How in the world can they say I'm obese when I'm and some of that may be true. But if you are way off, if you are 10 or 20 or 30 points off of that number, then it's not just big bones. And the key to that is you want to get that number down. And I want you to think about what your ideal number is, because the most dangerous place to carry excess weight is having fat around your organs and fat around your midsection, where you have, that visceral fat is dangerous, because that affects all of your numbers and it affects your metabolism as well. And there's a lot of people that have fatty liver that's caused by excess glucose in your bloodstream. And we're going to get into that a little bit as well. But we can reverse all that, and we're going to get into that. What is your ideal blood pressure number? What would be the best number for what is your doctor telling you that number should be? Because this is what we want to do. We want to get you to that number, and then we want your doctor to say, you know what, we need to decrease the amount of this blood pressure medication that you're taking, because now your numbers are dropping, and we don't want it to go too low, because that blood pressure medication plus what you're doing that has changed your metabolism and has affected everything else. We're going to have to lower that dosage and then get to the point where, you know what? Wait a minute. We no longer need this medication to control this because now you're eating those things that positively affects your metabolism and your blood pressure. Cholesterol numbers, same thing, right? Your resting heart rate. Your resting heart rate is going to be determined too by how much, again, how much is your heart having to, what kind of job is it having to do to pump the blood and to get it through your body? And, how many beats per minute does it take for you to operate where you are now, but then in your optimal state, when you're in your best health, what do you want that number to be? And you can consult with your doctor on, okay, doc, what's a good resting heart rate for someone my age, or the best resting heart rate for someone my age? Because you just don't want to go for good if you're doing this. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and invoke the best, you know? Now, what is your ideal fasting blood glucose? Your A1C numbers. What's the ideal number for you? Again, consult with your doctor on those things and find out what those numbers are, because again, this is your vision, right? I can tell you all day what you should do or what you could do, but it means nothing if it's not your vision. Now, what I'll do is I'll support your vision. I will encourage your vision. I'll pray for you that your vision is manifested, because it can, and I believe that's God's will for you. But now this is the thing too. Now going into vision, the second key is, and we're gonna all of this relates to metabolism, because you have to commit to, because in order for your metabolism to be reset, there's some things you're gonna have to commit to. And so commitment is the key, right? James chapter 2, verse 17. This is all about commitment. It says, so also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. And some of you know that scripture, what's behind that, and is faith without works is dead. So there has to be some work. That's the only way that you show that you're committed, is by the work. It's not just saying, yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, this is a good idea. Yes. And again, you have to make those proclamations, because yes, you want to state what you're going to do, but then also it can't just be something that you say. It has to be more about what you do. So faith without works, yes, it is dead. So now commitment, what does it mean to commit? All of these things: being dedicated, making a vow, being engaged, being in agreement, having fidelity to what you say you're going to do, the guarantee, being faithful, all of those things, making an oath, allegiances, loyalty, all of those things are involved in commitment. And if you look at your life and just think about the things that you've been committed to, generally speaking, those things that we really commit to, they serve us, right? Either they serve us one or two ways. They serve us in a positive way, to where that commitment leads us down a road that we want to go down and that we love the results of being committed to it. Or we can commit to some things that are not for us. And then we find ourselves in situations where, man, why am I committed to this? Because this is not the best thing for me in any shape, form, or fashion. And so as it relates to our health, what kind of foods do we commit to eating? Because we do make commitments. There's some things that we eat, some things that we drink, that we're committed to doing those things. And then we can ask ourselves the question, why am I committed to this when it's not serving me? Well, it's not serving me well. It's not serving my best purpose. It's not taking me down the road to a better me. It's not a part of my new vision. And see, that's why that vision is so important, because when you commit to the vision that you have, then your actions will also follow suit with what you have seen, that vision. Now there's something else carrying you. So now, this is a question now. Am I willing to commit to the vision of health that God has given me? Because in the first thing you did was you established that vision. You prayed about it, meditated about it, asked God to show you what it looks like for you to walk in your best health ever. So now, are you committed to that vision? Because I believe this, and anyone that watches this video, you get this, again, I'm doing this, led to do this. This is absolutely free. I believe you take this, you watch this, you meditate on this, you look at the scriptures, you read them. And if health is something that this year has been on your heart to change, I believe you can change it. You don't have to work with me personally in order to change your health or anything like that. I believe you can take what you have here, what these keys are, listen to what I'm sharing with you, take it to heart, be prayerful about it, walk this thing out, and experience God's best in your health. I believe that. So now, are you willing to commit to this vision? What are the things I will do to demonstrate my commitment? See, that's the question. Again, a lot of times when people think about making change as it relates to health, that it's all about willpower. It's not necessarily about willpower, because willpower will only get you through temporary situations. That's what willpower does. It's there to get you through, again, temporary situations. You're in a life or death situation. Okay, you will yourself to do X, Y, Z. And it's there for that. But commitment is long term. Commitment is deciding, making a decision. That's what commitment is. Because, see, I asked this question one time before in one of my classes, and is it really possible to not do something that you're committed to? Is that even possible? Can you not do something that you're committed to? Now, some people have said, well, you may have started, you was committed, you started then. No, I don't think so. See, because the very definition of commitment means you decided and you stuck it out. You saw it through to the end. That's what I believe commitment is. So now we looked at, again, the vision, being committed, and now God's plan for your health, right? Now, here is a reason. Say, now, I need a reason. I need a reason to commit. I need a reason to establish this vision. Now, for all of the believers out there that's watching this, there's a reason for you to commit, right? If you look in God's word and God's plan for your health in 3 John 2, which says, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So when you look at that and you know that it's God's desire for you to be in health, even as your soul prospers, even though John wrote this he's speaking to the church. And as they're growing spiritually, he's also saying that, yes, also, I want you to be healthy. I want you to grow in your health. I don't want you to have any of these, maladies or anything else coming up against you. I'm praying for you that your health will prosper even as your soul prospers. So now the question is, okay, am I in line with that? Do I believe it's God's will for me to be in health? Do I believe it's God's will for my health to prosper even as my soul prospers? Because sometimes we have had this mental block and feeling like some of the things that come upon us from a health standpoint are some of our thorn in the flesh, sort of like Paul had, where there's something we got to deal with. This is God's will, or, this is, somehow God's way of, having me to stay, humble. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. Now, do I believe that we can, be doing everything humanly possible to, eat according to God's plan, which I'm gonna get into that in a couple minutes, and, moving and exercising, we're doing everything we can, and then, some type of sickness come upon us? I mean, it can happen, but I think that's the exception. I think the rule is when we align with God's plan for our health, when we align with, what he tells us about health, when we have a vision to walk in health, and we do those things and we're committed to it, I believe that 9 out of 10 times we will experience kingdom health. So now, do I believe God has a plan for my health? That's a question. Do I believe his plan for me is to be in kingdom health? See, because if you don't believe that, if you believe, yeah, like some people have said, and you may hear people, say, well, why am I going to do all this? I have to die from something. I have to die from something. That is some backwards thinking. Yeah, that's some backwards. That was some backwards thinking. Now, what is God's plan for my health? That's the question you have to ask God. In your quiet time, what is his plan for your health? Seek him on that, right? Have him be a part of your life in that area. God he wants to be involved in everything pertaining to life and godliness. Every good and perfect gift comes from God. And so health is a gift, right? Because when we pray, we say, Lord, I want to thank you for life, health, and strength. Old folks, they start their testimonies off. Start their testimonies off with life, health, and strength, and all of those good things, right? So that's the thing too, is what is his plan for your health? So now, one of the things we all know is that the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I love that with jacuzzi back remodel, and for safety. The word says that I came that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly, right? John 10:10. So now, anything that's taken away from life, anything that's stealing, killing, and destroying, The thief has come to do that. And we know who the thief is. But it says, I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly. So again, we know what God's will is for us. We know what his plan is for us. The thing that we have to do is just walk in agreement. That's it. Set ourselves up to walk in agreement with God. And we will experience God type things in our lives. So now, one of the things that relates to how we do things from a health standpoint is renewing your mind and being transformed. Romans 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's awesome, right? Because in order for us to do something different, our mind has to be renewed because, again, as you look at this, and I'm coming to you from this television box for a reason, because that's been the main tool of programming for the past 50 years. What we eat, what we drink, what we think is called television for a reason, because it's establishing a vision for you. But you have to establish your own vision, God's vision. Can't let the television provide the vision for you. And then two, now think about what it's called. Everything we watch on quote unquote television is called programming. And there's a reason for that. They're not programming a station. The programming is being done for those who are watching the programs. So yes, we are getting information. We're being programmed to eat certain things, to drink certain things, and the connection around it, the emotional connection. And when you watch the commercials, the food commercials, the drink commercials, it's always associated with good times. You know, boom, everybody's happy. Everybody's having a good time. You know, ooh, this is the best thing ever. You know, Coke commercials. I mean, you're living good. Pepsi, as I mentioned earlier, you got Michael Jackson with the Pepsi generation dancing. Everybody's feeling good. Everything is wonderful. All of this stuff, have it your way at Burger King. Where is the beef and all the stuff with Wendy's. I mean, all of it. McDonald's, you got what's the guy name that had the first job there, and everything is good. I mean, it's just around those things, you just feel, oh, this is life, this is living. So that emotional attachment is built into it, that if I do these things, if I drink this thing, if I eat these things, I'm going to feel like these commercials are saying I'm going to feel. They're going to produce these good feelings in me, these good vibes. It's programming, right? But now, this is the thing. The beautiful thing is, as believers, we know that we can be transformed if we renew our minds. Then we can prove what is that good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. We can know, okay, is this for us or not? Right? Our minds are transformed. Our minds have been renewed. We can know, okay, no, that's not going to serve me. Not in the vision that I have for myself as it relates to health. That's not going to serve me. So now once the mind is transformed and it's renewed, then we can feel good about, even though you're not going to see a bunch of commercials about eating carrots. You know what I mean? People dancing around eating carrots, eating celery, they're dancing around, or, drinking water where they're just like, oh, this is the best thing ever, right? Or drinking a kombucha, you don't even see any kombucha commercials. But that's interesting because so much money is in the foodstuff industry and they operate off billions. So they're on TV every single day, programming, pushing their stuff, tying it to our emotions that you're going to feel good. This is going to give you the good life, right? You eat this stuff, you drink this stuff, you have a good time. You're going to experience the good life if you do these things. So that emotional attachment is built into it, but we can be transformed by the renewing of our minds and understand that the good life comes from God. Every good and perfect gift comes from God. And then we can look at, okay, how did God outline this stuff for us to live? Everything related to life and godliness is in the word. That's what the word says, right? So again, what is my bad programming around health? So let's take time to meditate on that and think about that. Okay, what's my bad programming around health? And then again, what are my new thoughts around kingdom health? How do I experience kingdom health? How do I walk this thing out? Life is good, right? When we're living according to God's will, God's plan. He's not trying to keep us from, he's hiding candy bars from us because, oh, you just don't want me to eat candy bars because they're good. No, God's not doing no stuff like that. God doesn't necessarily want you filling your diet up with candy bars because they are not good for you, right? So again, renewing the mind, that's a key component of all of this and being transformed. Because once that happens, once our mind is renewed around God's plan, God's purpose, and in this case, I'm talking about kingdom health, then you are experiencing things on a whole different level. And this is what is beautiful about a renewed mind is now the things you want changes, right? What you want changes. And then some people say, well, yeah, you hear about different diet plans and things like that to say, hey, listen, you can eat what you want and still, lose weight or achieve your goal or whatever it is, or be healthy. And now, if your mind is renewed and what you want has changed, then you can absolutely eat what you want. Because now what you want has changed, right? Think about that. As you grow from let's say just from a physical standpoint, right? You get older, you age. And what you wanted as a 10-year-old is very different from what you want as a 30-year-old. Very different. Now, if your mind was still if your mind is still where you were when you were 10 years old, then yeah, what you want may, can be the same thing, but at what you want at 10 years old and what you want at 30, in most cases is not going to serve you well because you're in a different place. You have to have a different mindset at 30 than what you did at 10. So now what you want at 10 is different from what you want at 30. So even when you talk about, I'm using the example as far as eating, what you want to eat when your mind has not been renewed or transformed around food. And then after you have that transformation and understanding, then yeah, you're going to want something different. So the statement can be true that yes, I can eat what I want and still experience the type of health that's going to serve me and experience kingdom health by eating what I want, because what you want has changed because you're in a different place. Mine has been transformed. Now, God's eating plan. Now, this is interesting here because this is where, my whole journey took a change. I mean, my whole journey went to a different level because I've been teaching the class, like I said, over 30 years ago, just around health, healing, eating. But this scripture right here, I hadn't paid as much attention to, but I was doing it in the way that I thought, okay, I'm being led to do. Of course, there was things that I was not eating, things that I was eating, and what I thought was healthy. And then a little over 2 years ago, when God put it back on my heart in 2023 to revisit this and start back doing the classes, this is what stood out. Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 29. This stood out. And I was like, wow. And this is basically God's eating plan. And God said, behold, I've given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. I was like, wow. Wow, this is so wild. I was like, wow. I looked at this thing, I said, you know what? And again, now people can choose what degree they want to apply this, right? But when I look at Genesis, I always say Genesis, if you want to know God's original intent, then go to Genesis, right? Go to the beginning, and you'll get a pretty good understanding of what God's original intent is. Because as time moved on, as man did his thing, and man kind of got into other things that God allowed. Some people talk about his permissive, his perfect, and permissive and perfect will, and there are discussions on that. Now, God designed us, and this is in Genesis, the first chapter, when you come into the introduction of man and all the instructions that God has given man and everything that's happening in the garden. And I say this too, I say, okay, think about it. God placed man in a garden. He didn't place him on a cattle ranch. He didn't place him in the woods with a bow and arrow and say, "Hey, listen, this is where you're going to eat, this is where you're going to live, this is where you're going to get your substance." No. God placed man in a garden. Everything man needed was in the garden. Right? Everything he needed was in the garden. Now, yes, he gave him, carte blanche over the earth and told him to go and name the animals and all that kind of stuff because they were going to be running around. He needed to call them something to differentiate them. And then once he named the animals, it gave him different characteristics. So, that was a part of the job. But God placed them in a garden. And so God's eating plan, and this is the thing now that's coming around, which now is the whole talk of the town is how plant-based living is the best thing for our health. You can't find a medical journal anywhere that will refute that eating a plant-based diet is not the best thing for us. You have these carnivores that come up with their theories about, ketosis and, how you're just eating a meat-based diet, how you're going to lose weight and you got a bunch of protein and you're building muscle and you're living like, quote unquote, the cavemen used to live, and how that's, yes, that'll keep weight off of you. Yeah, you won't gain weight eating meat only. You won't, but also you need a certain amount of carbohydrates. You need a certain amount of the enzymes that come from green vegetables, fruits. You need some of the minerals. You need some of the vitamins that you can only get from those plants. You need what the sun does to those plants to create live enzymes in your body. Because your plant-based eating, you're going to be eating food that basically is alive, right? So that energy that comes from the sun that the body converts, and again, we're getting into metabolism. It makes it easy for the body to convert that to energy. So that aids a healthy metabolism. And that's what we all want, is a healthy metabolism. And the best way to have a healthy metabolism is to eat according to God's plan. As much plant-based as we can get. You can't eat too much of a plant-based diet. And see, when I say plant-based, I'm not talking about, and this is the thing too, at the beginning, I talked about processed foods and the food industry, the food stuff industry, because they don't make food, they make food stuff. It's not food, it's food stuff. It's manufactured. It's not what the body wants, but we can survive off of it. It's very similar to what they do as far as, making dog food. I'm using that example because there's not much difference in what's for your processed foods. They'll take some of a food, like some of the meats, they'll take some of the meat, boom. They put some of the meat in, and the other stuff is blended with and made with, and the preservatives and everything else. Because they'll take a shoulder from an animal. Now, if they just gave you the whole shoulder, of course, they may make, I don't know, may make $50 off of it. But if they take little bits of that shoulder and put it in, a processed bacon and package it, and that one shoulder can now make 200 packs of bacon that they're selling you for $5. Now you've taken something that was worth $50 and now they're making, $1,000 off of it. You're getting a little bit of the meat in there, and the rest of the stuff is, who knows what the rest of the stuff is. But that's the food stuff industry. That's what they do. It's all about profit. It's not about you being nourished. Now, when you eat that stuff, yeah, you do want to bless it and pray over it for the nourishment of your body, because that's not what they made it for. They didn't make it to nourish your body. Trust me. Because that whole pipeline from food stuff to medication, that's a real pipeline. And two of the richest industries in America is the food stuff industry and the medical pharmaceutical industries. And it's not by happenstance. It's not by happenstance. It's design. So Now when I look at something that's processed, the processed food, and again, there's some processed foods that's less processed than others, but the stuff that's packaged and in a store and can last for 2 years on your shelf in your pantry, nah, it's hard for me to even think about eating that stuff at this point. And everybody's on this journey and everybody's in different places. But just, for me, it's like, because I know what it is, it's like, I can't do that. When it's just as easy for me to grab a carrot, you know what I mean? If I need something to snack on, I can grab a carrot. That's a carrot in its whole form. That's what, it was created to be, was a carrot. Yeah, they modify foods and do different things to them, from time to time and, do different, years. I mean, not just, they didn't just start that 50 years ago with, changing and modifying, how you grow different things. But from a standpoint of it being made in a laboratory, the food itself, no, I'm not interested in eating a bunch of that stuff. Will I occasionally eat something that's totally made up or processed? Yes, occasionally. But you can't make that a part of your daily, the way we eat. And again, sometimes that's where we are, but when that, hey, I can choose to do something different, then God's eating plan, Genesis 1:29, that was the game changer for me. So now my personal story, I had a guy who said something to me around this time, a little over 2 years ago, that he was eating raw. He was just eating raw fruits and vegetables for he didn't say how long, excuse me, he didn't say how long he was doing it. But he said that, and I immediately said, you know what? I mean, I got, some people call it quickening, that, you know what? 21 days. That was my thing. 21 days. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat only raw fruits and vegetables for 21 days. So you can say I did a 21-day fast, just raw fruits and vegetables. And those 21 days literally changed my life because I felt I had more energy, mental clarity, not only mental clarity, but my skin changed. I was like, oh my goodness, 21 days of eating that way. And I noticed those changes, I'll say 21 days, that's like immediately. So I was like, wow, this is basically Genesis 1:29. So yeah, God knew that in order for these bodies to function at its highest level, the whole plant-based living, plant-based, but see, this is the thing, because sometimes we get into the vegans and see vegans, they're not eating meat, but a lot of vegan stuff you see out there is where I got vegan burgers, I got vegan this, I got vegan that. And unfortunately, I think some of them mean well, but then too, now you're getting stuff that's processed, right? It just doesn't have meat in it, but it's processed and packaged and made into something else that that I don't even know. I don't even know if it's like, some of the vegan burgers and stuff. I don't even know if it's better than just eating the meat. Because if you're eating grass-fed beef that hasn't, again, you can check, and there's places that sell it, that it hasn't been processed, because it's not necessarily, I don't eat beef anymore or pork or whatever, but they, for my personal reasons, but you can eat that. You can eat that I think in America too, and I'm starting to ramble a little bit. I think in America too, we eat too much meat because we're sold on the whole protein theory that you got to eat a bunch of meat And so even our meals are constructed that way, where the biggest portion of what we eat is meat. The biggest portion of what's on our plate is meat, which really it shouldn't be that way. The biggest portion of what we eat with a meal should really be plant-based. Meat, a very small portion of what we eat, you know? But we don't feel like we're getting our money's worth unless we're eating a bunch of meat. But we've been programmed to feel that way. So now, this is what I did after I came off of the 21-day raw fruits and vegetables only. Body felt great. The enzymes and everything I was getting from it, and then just knowing to, after getting my certifications in, health and nutrition, knowing what these, not that I didn't know, but knowing even more from a scientific standpoint, what this stuff is now doing in my body and how it's feeding my cells, and knowing that cells reproduce at a high rate, and what you give those cells to rebuild with is going to change your whole molecular makeup. So now you become a new person. Literally every 7 years, you replace everything in your body. But the building blocks that you use to replace those cells are going to determine what kind of body you have over that 7-year period of time, as far as, your whole functionality, because you can totally rebuild your body with the right building blocks, but you got to be committed to it long term in order to replace all those, so to speak, the faulty parts, right? Because you can rebuild those cells. But 21 days, I did it for 21 days, came off of it. And then it dawned on me, and I thought about Daniel and his boys when they went to Babylon, right? And how, it was a big deal when the king took them boys and said, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna offer to feed y'all all this good stuff, and the king's table. They're gonna eat from the king's table." And then Daniel said, "No, just give us basically Genesis 1:29. Just give us that. Just give us fruits, vegetables. Just give us those things. Y'all can have all the meat, the delicacies, and the wine, and y'all can do all that. Just give us this, and we'll be fine." And so the king was like, "Yeah, so we'll see how that works out, and see if you guys are, sharper and wiser, and just how y'all fare from eating that." Of course, if you know the story, you know that at the end of the time, Daniel and his boys came out continents, just sort of like my 21 day, so like my 21 day fruits and vegetables only, raw fruits and vegetables, right? They came out skin glowing, looking good, feeling good, and more so than the king's men. So of course, Daniel and his boys were elevated. But the point of that is Genesis 1:29. So now what I've done in my personal life, now, as some of the classes I teach and things like that, I suggest you eat as much raw food as you can, as many raw fruits and vegetables as you can on a daily and on a weekly basis. I go the first of the week, I do it, and I've been doing this for over 2 years. The first 3 days of the week, I do a Daniel fast. The 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of every week, where I only eat raw fruits and vegetables those 3 days. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm still eating whole foods. What do I mean by that? Whole foods. I'm eating salmon that's just been caught and cut. It's what it is. It hasn't been processed and made into something else. I'll eat some chicken that's just chicken that hasn't been processed and gone through any of that. I'm not eating that Chick-fil-A for the most part, right? Because that's been processed. I mean, it is what it is. It's been processed, and is quote unquote as healthy as Chick-fil-A is supposed to be, like the healthier option of fast food. they still are selling processed food. So I'm eating whole foods. Now, even though I'm eating cooked stuff, right? Spinach and, sweet potatoes and things like that. But they're still whole foods. They are what they were when they came out of the garden or when they took the chicken or caught the fish. It's still what it was. It hasn't been through a process and been changed and a bunch of other stuff added to it. Now, some of the salmon you do have to, if you get to this point where you're thinking about, okay, now some of the farm raised salmon, the way they raise it, they use antibiotics in a lot of it because they're raising it in tanks with a bunch of and some of them get sick. Now, if you start thinking about that kind of thing and that becomes a concern, which it is of mine. So now for the most part, I get, salmon that hasn't been given antibiotics, and also now I try to get wild caught salmon, which is sockeye salmon, just to, try to eat as clean as possible. But again, I'm saying all this to say this: God's eating plan. If you eat as much plant-based as you can, as often as you can, and for myself, I use the 85-15 rule. I try to have 85% of what I eat and drink come from a plant-based source. So, and if you get to that ratio, listen, if you get to 50-50, that's a good place, 50-50, because now the table is so much turned to the other side that when you go into the grocery store, I go into the grocery store, and the majority of what people have, a lot of times what people have, a processed food. So, I can't help it now, but I'm not judging anyone, just looking and, kind of doing like a survey of, depending upon the stores that I go in, how much of what someone has on their plate, so to speak, is processed versus whole food. And again, it depends on what stores you're in, because if I'm in Whole Food, if I'm in Whole Foods or Sprouts or Fresh Market or something like that, that number tends to be more of a whole food type, because that's kind of the theme of where you are. But like if I go on a Food Line, Aldi, or some of those stores, then the ratio is skewed the other way where it's more processed. But this is, again, got kind of in that vein for a while, but it is important. And I pray that, as you watch this, that Genesis 1:29 will stand out. And again, God's original intent and what's allowed, two totally different things. No one's sinning from eating processed food or whatever, but when you're thinking about building your cells, when you're thinking about fueling your body, when you're thinking about feeding your metabolism in a way that's going to benefit you long term, then every research study and anything else out there says a plant-based eating regimen is going to be the best things for these bodies, right? It may not be the best things for a lion running around in the Serengeti. It may not be the best thing for, a bear, in the woods. But for these bodies, humans, yes, that's been proven to be the best thing. Now, what will I choose daily? Life or death, right? And the foods we eat, they either have life in them or they do not. And all of the food stuff, none of the food stuff has life in it, because the life has been taken out of it so it could be packaged, processed, one, to profit from, and then two, to stay on your shelf or their shelf for a year or longer. So there's no life in the food. So what do I choose daily, life or death? Most of your plant-based, especially if you're eating raw fruits and vegetables, they still have life in them. So when you eat them, they're giving you life. They're literally contributing to your life force. And that's why you have more energy when you eat life-giving food. Now, do I believe God's eating plan is right for me? That's a question, right? How often do I eat according to God's plan? Now, you see over here with the thumbs up, right? All of the foods that, yes, this is what I am to eat. Now, you do see some meat up there as well, right? Because those are whole foods. They are what they are. Haven't been processed. Over here on the left, you see all of the processed stuff that tastes so good. That's on purpose. That's on purpose. They've been manipulated to appeal to your taste buds. And then for you to need to eat more and more and more of it to be satisfied. Again, we didn't get here by happenstance. And again, it's not even something that a lot of us could avoid just simply because of one, over the past 50, 60 years, that little box you see up in the corner called TV has programs pretty much to eat this way. So now the renewing of the mind process has to take place to realign us with God's original intent. And that's what I hope we'll do here. So now there's something else I'm going to share here. So now this booklet, this little guide, I want you to get it. If you don't have it, you can get it at www.keys.live. 5keys.live. But then two, I'm going to share something else here just about getting into metabolism, because that's one of the things that I said we were going to do. And it's about your metabolism and how to get it to function at its highest level. And there are certain foods that you'd want to eat that's gonna do just that. So let me get to that. And let's see here. Just take me 1 second here. Pull up that. This is just a list of some different foods and how they help to enhance the metabolism. And these are things that you want to try to eat as often as possible. Because one of the things that kills the metabolism, slows it down, is having glucose in our bloodstream. A lot of us now are what's called insulin resistant because everything that we eat now has sugar in it, even if you're not eating something that you think is like an obvious, like candy or cakes and stuff like that. You say, well, I don't eat a lot of candy, cakes. I don't, do those things. But, my glucose level is still high. What's going on with that? It's because almost half of the processed foods out there, they have, they're still putting sugar in it in different forms. And so even though it's not necessarily something that's sweet, it still has a bunch of sugar and a bunch of salt. And once you become insulin resistant, your metabolism changes completely to where now you're not breaking down food as readily as you would. The process is thrown off, and your metabolism slows down, and it becomes almost impossible to lose weight because there's constant glucose in your bloodstream. Your liver takes the glucose, stores it, converts it to fat, but then after a while, when you become insulin resistant, that process is not happening um, as readily, and um, it's impossible in that state for your body to burn fat and lose weight, because now you're only burning carbs and you're only burning glucose. You're never in fat burning mode, and your body needs to be in fat burning mode in order to lose weight, because you got to get rid of stored fat. That's where excess weight comes from, is your body storing this fat, which the body is amazing how it was designed. And so, you know, at a time when food wasn't readily available, where you may not eat every day, you may only eat twice a week or 3 times a week. So your body would, when you did it, your body would store that fat so that, okay, when you were not eating, you still could function. I mean, at a high level. Now we feel like, we're going to pass out if we don't eat every, 2, 3, 4 hours. But that's just how the body has been conditioned and changed over time because of insulin resistance and blood glucose being in our blood constantly. So now our body's been used to running like that. And so it takes a little bit to change that to where now we're going to get that glucose out of our bloodstream. We're going to reset everything to where the body now will start burning fat again. And some things that help us to do that. And there's 2 things. One is different foods that help with metabolism. There are different foods and drinks that will one, help convert white fat, adipose tissue to brown fat, the type of fat that really helps your metabolism to rev up and starts that process. Ginger. Again, however you can get ginger, eating and drinking ginger as much as you can. Now, some people say, well, what about ginger ale? If you can get an all natural ginger ale that's not like processed and you get it from these food stuff providers, because these food stuff providers, they're not giving you something that's mostly ginger, right? But ginger, that will help boost metabolism. Also helps turn that white fat to brown fat. So as much as you can. And see, this is the thing we have control of. We can decide what we eat, right? And we can just make it a daily practice to eat something or drink something with ginger in it. So you see the benefits on the screen there, of what ginger does. Beans also, a high in protein and fiber, helps you feel full. And one of the things this will do is also helps you to burn that when it's digesting the beans, but it also helps you to feel full. So if you like beans, find those beans that you like, make that a part of your eating routine. And then lean beef, that's grass fed. If you got grass fed beef, okay, good source of protein, of course, and important for energy production. Lentils, same thing as beans, right? And then 2, being properly hydrated. So there's several benefits to being properly hydrated, including helping your metabolism to function the way it should, and then also keeping you at a point to where because this is the thing they found out too, is that a lot of times when you think you're hungry, a lot of times we're not hungry, we're thirsty. It's just a matter we're dehydrated. We need to be hydrated. So water is very important when it comes to helping your metabolism. Flaxseed, rich in fiber, helps with digestion, stabilizing blood sugar. And then it contains omega-3 fatty acids, which helps reduce inflammation. So one of the things when you start going towards plant-based and doing these things, you will feel like literally at some point, like your body has just shrunk. And that's because of that inflammation. Like once you get inflamed, and that's one of the key components of deteriorating health is the body being inflamed. And what a plant-based regimen will do is move you out of that inflamed state. And you'll feel a world of difference as well. Brazil nuts, which I love. I love nuts, period. Brazil nuts, one of my favorite. Excellent source of selenium, a mineral that supports thyroid function. Because again, once your metabolism is out of whack, it affects a number of your organs and glands and things like that. And that's why when I titled what I was talking about today in metabolism, all of this that we're talking about affects metabolism. But the key thing about this whole, what I'm sharing here is Genesis 1:29. If we can, as much as we can, eat more of Genesis 1:29, that's going to be one of the best things we can do for our metabolism. Broccoli. It's another great source. Quinoa. It's high in protein, high in fiber. Salmon, omega-3 again, helps reduce inflammation. Green tea. Now, I was never really a big tea drinker other than kombuchas, which I drink kombuchas almost every day. Usually I'll do the matcha, and it's a mushroom elixir, which is good for you as well. And it helps with converting white fat to brown fat. And it's made with green tea. So I drink that almost every day. But also, I'll steep some green tea at home and just, you don't have to drink it real hot. Because there's a whole thing out there about what happens when you scorch the back of your throat. It opens you up to some things that you don't want to happen. So, let it get room temperature if you need to. The tea itself, put it in a container. You can drink it cold, or lukewarm. And I'll try to, probably about 3 times a week, I'll just drink just some green tea by itself because it does, as you see here, promote fat oxidation, and that's turning white fat to brown fat. It's one of the best things you can do for that process to take place, and that's definitely increases your metabolism and helps to heal the metabolism as well. So green tea is a big one. And then avocado oil also increases, reduce inflation, and this is our inflammation. This is the thing about a lot of things that you see here. It's twofold. Usually, if something is reducing inflammation, it's also increasing your metabolism. So it's working twofold, right? It's getting rid of inflammation in your body, but then also causing your metabolism to come back online so that you are metabolizing food in the right way. Blood glucose is in line. Now you can start the whole fat burning process. And I'm going to get into the way to do the fat burning process. Cacao. And I know some people want a reason to eat chocolate. Well, here's a reason right here is because if you're eating dark chocolate and you can look on the label, and if it's 70% cacao or more, then it's going to help to boost your metabolism. Because the flip side to that is, of course, chocolate, the sugar in it may offset the metabolism boosting effect of it if, you're not getting chocolate that's at least 70% cacao. And then whey protein, of course, makes you feel full, increase your muscle mass, which also helps to increase thermogenesis in your body. Almonds also a good nut to eat to help you feel full. And then apples helps to regulate your blood pressure. I mean, your, excuse me, your blood sugar, and rich in antioxidants. And I try to keep apples around and eat an apple every day. You know, the old saying, which is so wild, is that an apple a day, you remember that? An apple a day will keep the doctor away. It's so crazy because if you're really conscious to eat an apple a day, it does have a tremendous impact on your health. You know, from the fiber, from helping to regulate blood sugar, and it's also rich in antioxidants. So, and then berries also is a great food to eat that's metabolism friendly. Eggs, excellent source of protein, and it's a brain food. It helps build muscle mass. Leafy green vegetables, so the collard greens and all of the type of greens that you want to eat. It's just it's just a matter of how they're prepared. And then kale, it's another good one. Steel cut oats, high in fiber, reduces, blood sugar, rich in vitamins and minerals. So yeah, so now these are all great foods to have in your diet on a daily basis as much as possible. If you're eating this way, you're going to be eating a way that's friendly to your metabolism to help reset it, and for now you to have better metabolic health. The other thing over time is eating windows, and that's all about what we call fasting windows, and really getting yourself to a point where you can, at a minimum, go 12 hours without eating. Now, that can be from 8 in the evening to 8 in the morning, or 9 in the morning to 9, 9 at night to 9 in the morning. Generally speaking, you want that number to be close because you want a 3-hour window of going to bed and haven't eaten within that 3-hour window before you go to bed. So when you go to sleep, you're sleeping better because your body's not digesting food. I know sometimes we may get a little tired, after we eat. So we feel like, oh, that's, you eat something, then I'll sleep better. Yeah, you go to sleep because the blood, is taken from your brain area and is, going to your stomach to help with digestion. So yeah, you feel a little drowsy, whatever. You're not necessarily getting better sleep. So having that window of at least 12 hours, and then there's areas of intermittent fasting that, some people do. It's a lot of research that is great for your metabolism. And it's a way to burn fat because once you get past that 8 to 12-hour window of eating, now your blood is free of glucose. So the energy that your body needs, now it's going to pull from your fat reserves. So you can stay in that window. Let's see, some people do 16-8, where they're fasting for 16 hours. They eat for 8 during the day, and that gives them at least 4 hours of fat burning, where your body is running off fat reserves. Now, over time, if you continue to go in this vein, you find out that works for you, you'll find that you're not like, you don't have energy, or you feel like, oh, I got to eat something. No, you feel like you have, unlimited energy during that window, that 12 to 16-hour window, that 4-hour period. You feel like you're more energized. It's kind of amazing what happens. And then ketones come into effect too, where your body's, using ketones. And then as you learn to fast longer, you get into autophagy, which I'll get into that in a whole different subject matter, where now your cells are starting to clean up any damaged cells and things like that in your body. And you go into longer fasts, 3-day water fasts and things like that. You're burning a lot of fat, but then also you start releasing stem cells. This is a whole different subject matter when it comes to fasting. And we know that Jesus said this, some things only come by fasting and prayer. Now, we took that, and I know, yes, because we do get closer to God, we can really focus in and hear and not concerned with so much what's going on with the body, but also there's some health genius in that as well, because your body does a lot of repairing when you're fasting. So look, God bless. I'm glad you were able to jump on today. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll send you some information, and do download the guide if you haven't already. And so now this has been your program for today. We did some good programming, right? God bless, and we will talk soon.